Our focus is becoming ABLE-ready in 2016. This webinar is brought to you by the ABLE National Resource Center and sponsored by Bank of America. Listening to the webinar today, the audio is being broadcast through your computer. Please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. You can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel. If you accidentally close the panel, you can reopen by going to the Communicate menu at the top of the screen and choose Join Audio Broadcast. There is real-time captioning, which is being provided today during this webinar. The captions can be found in the Media Viewer panel, which appears in the lower right corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make the Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize other panels like chat, Q&A, and/or participants. If you would like to submit questions, you can submit them at any time during the webinar, and we will direct the questions accordingly during the Q&A portion. If you are listening by phone and have not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing questions to nmatthews@ndi-inc.org. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on the ABLE National Resource Center website at ablenrc.org/events/webinar, Becoming ABLE Ready, Choosing Right Program. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the host, NDI administrator, or you may also email nmatthews@ndi-inc.org. So let me share with you information about our guest panelists today. We have brought together 4 individuals who represent perspectives and some of the diversity of eligible individuals for ABLE accounts, which soon will become a reality as some of the first states will be opening ABLE programs in the month of June. Helping me today in moderating this webinar is Chris Rodriguez, Senior Public Policy Advisor with National Disability Institute. Our guest panelists are Tom Foley, Deputy Director, World Institute on Disability, Alex Guinness, Policy and Research Specialist at the World Institute on Disability, Aaron Kaufman, Senior Legislative Associate, Jewish Federation of North America, and Sergio Zarate, co-founder and president of Down by the Border, a Texas-based association helping children with special needs. What we're going to do today is first provide a context, level the playing field with providing some basic information about understanding ABLE. Consider the eligibility criteria, assess your disability-related needs as a key topic, talk as well about identifying and communicating with potential contributors, and then finally examining and comparing available programs based on your needs as states begin to open ABLE programs across the country. We will then have a Q&A session with our guest panelists. So let me start with just basics about ABLE. This year, 2016, marks the first year in which ABLE accounts will be available to qualified beneficiaries across the country. We expect several ABLE programs to be up and running, as I mentioned, as early as this summer, and more to follow over the course of the year, and more to come in 2017. While state ABLE programs will be similar in many ways, there may still be significant differences from one ABLE program to another. Our purpose today is to provide a context for that discussion. Understanding differences may help you pick a program that best meets your particular needs and allow you the best opportunity to maximize the benefits of having an ABLE account. So getting started. The Stephen Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience Act became law on December 19, 2015, and it was signed into law by President Barack Obama. Many of us are aware that there was strong bipartisan support in both the House and Senate, and the bill passed almost, clearly overwhelmingly with almost all members supporting ABLE. What ABLE does is create a new option for some people with disabilities and their families, we'll talk about eligibility, to save for the future while protecting eligibility for public benefits. Let's make sure we all understand some of the critical elements, basics about ABLE. You must meet certain eligibility criteria to open an ABLE account, and a beneficiary may only have one ABLE account at any given time. The designated beneficiary is always the account owner, although another person, such as a parent or guardian, may be allowed signature authority over the account. Funds in an ABLE account will not be taken into consideration when determining eligibility for federally funded benefits, such as Social Security and Medicaid and several other federal public benefits, with an exception related to those individuals receiving SSI if and when their account exceeds $100,000. Contributions to an ABLE account are made with post-tax dollars, and funds in the account are to be used exclusively for disability-related expenses. Total annual contributions from all contributors to an ABLE account, that could be the individual with a disability, that could be parents, that could be family members, could be friends, could be an employer, no limitations, but the total amount of contribution cannot exceed the federal gift tax contribution annually, which is currently $14,000. This may periodically be adjusted for inflation. An individual account may not exceed the state limit for 529 savings accounts. Typically, that's set somewhere over $250,000. Some states are even over $400,000. At such point, the ability to contribute would be temporarily suspended until the individual used some of their resources, expended them, and brought the figure down below that ceiling. As many of you know now, there is no longer a residency requirement with the ABLE Act. Some states may decide to restrict enrollment in their program exclusively for residents of their state. An example of this is the Florida program, expected to be rolled out very soon this summer. For more detailed information regarding ABLE basics, please do visit the ABLE National Resource Center website, www.ablenrc.org. So let's dig a little bit deeper in terms of eligibility criteria. There are two ways to be eligible for an ABLE account. First, there is an age requirement. You must be disabled. Your age of onset of disability must be before the age of 26. Now, that doesn't mean if you're over the age of 26, you couldn't open an ABLE account. It just means that to be eligible, that disability happened before age 26. There also is a severity of disability requirement. You have to have been determined to meet the disability requirements for SSI, Supplemental Security Income, or SSDI, Social Security Disability Benefits. Or, if you are not receiving Social Security benefits, you have another option. You could submit a disability certification assuring that an individual holds documentation of a physician's diagnosis and signature and confirming that the individual meets the functional disability criteria of the ABLE Act related to severity of disability described in Title 16 or Title 2 of the Social Security Act. Assessing your disability-related needs. Well, we start with eligibility. You've determined you're eligible because you're on Social Security benefits, age of onset of disability before age 26, or the alternative option, you have a significant disability and a licensed physician in your state certifies you meet eligibility criteria. The next thing you might want to consider is, why am I putting money? Why am I seeking contributions from family and friends, or why am I personally putting contributions into an ABLE account that I'm going to open? You want to look at your current disability-related expenses. You may want to consider making a list of short and longer-term needs or supports that may require financial assistance. You want to consider whether these needs or supports are currently being covered or might be covered in the future by any public benefit program. You want to consider other sources of income you may have and how an ABLE account might interact and or complement them. Are you earning income through employment? Are you receiving a cash benefit through SSI or SSDI? Do you have a special needs trust? You want to look at both earned and unearned income. You want to look at needs. You want to begin to create a new picture, a set of goals, a set of expectations about quality of life that may be covering all facets of quality of life. Everything from where might you live, transportation in the future, healthcare costs you anticipate are not going to be covered by any federal or state public benefit or by some private insurance program. So you want to create this picture, this rich picture for yourself about the future. You want to consider researching financial institutions and perhaps even opening a savings or checking account if you do not already have one, which may play a role to complement the ABLE account that you're going to be creating. So what are some examples of short and long-term needs or supports? Some examples might include long-term supports like personal assistance services, which a government-funded benefit might cover, but it might restrict the number of hours per week or month. You might be dealing or contemplating renovations to where you live to make it more accessible. There might be assistive technology needs not being covered by insurance or some type of public benefit, like hearing aids or repairs to a wheelchair. You might have a need for the purchase of a computer or iPad. It could relate to communication, learning, or other ways it might help you be more independent. You might have ideas about supported or customized employment assistance, including on-the-job training, that no public or private program you're currently involved in is able to cover the cost. You can even think about covering public benefits planning, financial advising. You can cover and think about the purchase and retrofitting or modifying of a van. You want to investigate the costs associated with each of these identified needs, and you want to think both short and long term. Short term could be anything, you could limit yourself to 1 year. It could be even cost monthly, but I would encourage you and urge you to think long term about financial goals and this vision of a life in the future of greater independence, greater opportunity to have a quality of life you might not be able to have without gaining access to contributions that are part of an ABLE account. I hope these give you some ideas that can help you think about what might be my savings goals short-term, what might be some of my savings goals long-term, transportation, housing, technology at a level you don't have might be longer-term goals. Short-term goals might be another extra set of hours with a personal assistant that gives you more mobility, more independence than any government or benefit or private insurance is covering. Short-term may be an extra physical therapy visit a month. So you want to think short-term and long-term because it may affect your really creating savings goals that will be different depending on the time period that you're thinking about. Now that you have thought about and begun to work on what that budget looks like, and that budget is not something I would urge anyone to do in a vacuum by themselves. I would have you think about family and friends, and could be provider agencies that might be a part of the service, the human and social services that you receive. Could be a conversation with physicians or different types of health specialists that are part of your monthly routine. You want to build a picture that enables you to think beyond where you are now. What might my life look like that would be different quality of life? For a parent with a young child, you may want to talk with families with children who have grown up, who are of a transition age or working age, adult age. You may be a part of a nonprofit organization that has family meetings and peer support groups. There are a lot of different ways and lots of different people you can involve in thinking about how do I paint this rich picture of a different quality of life for the future. Now that you have a picture and you've made notes and you have a short-term list and you have a longer-term list, we want you to think about identifying and communicating with potential contributors. Well, who might that be? And I've mentioned this a few times already. Think wide, think broadly about people in your life who care about you. A parent who might be thinking of opening an ABLE account for a child. Think about others that could be, for the parents, could be a brother or sister. It could be a grandparent. It could be others who really care about what the future might look like, and that future allow your son or daughter to optimize their human potential, have a life of greater freedom, a life of greater choices. This is what an ABLE account may bring you. So you could begin those discussions with family members, both immediate and extended family. You could have that discussion with friends. You could even have that discussion with an employer to think about in the same way that they match funds in a 401k or in other types of everything from college savings accounts and other retirement accounts, is might they look at as an added benefit to helping employees where at the company where you are to also enable you to contribute directly from your paycheck into an ABLE account or to match your contribution into an ABLE account. Now, your contributions to an ABLE account are not tax deductible for purposes of filing your federal taxes, but they may be deductible for purposes of your state income tax depending on where you live. And those will vary quite a bit. There are some states who are creating ABLE programs with the state laws that were passed. There is no deduction at all. There are other states who have made that deduction as high as the full amount of $14,000 annually. There are some states who have made that state income tax deduction up to $2,000 for any individual who contributes into that account. So you will need to look at where your state is. There is even one state that will allow your state income tax deduction even if you don't utilize their state ABLE program, but you choose another state ABLE program and make a contribution. While you or your family may not have the resources to contribute $14,000 annually, you might also considering what we would call crowdsourcing, or letting relatives and friends know about specific goals you have in mind, so that that picture is something you share with them. And that might make that friend, that family, grandparents, others, to think about, wow, I really want to support that goal, and may be able to make a commitment one time annually, or even it could be a monthly commitment to contribute to your ABLE account. Well, we have walked through eligibility. We've walked through, in a fairly simple way, creating your profile in terms of future needs, short-term and long-term. We've talked about who might help you in contributing to an ABLE account you're going to open. Really, a significant purpose of the webinar today is choosing the right ABLE program. When I say right, let's face it, no two individuals are in the same situation. A person may have more economic means. Some families have extended families that might be able to help. For some who are opening an ABLE account, it's for a young child and they're looking over the full many, many years ahead into the future. Some people are looking to optimize the growth from the investment choices that they will make with an individual ABLE program in one state versus another. There are a lot of different considerations, but fundamentally, I think we have to all start with the standpoint, what might be right for a family you know may not be the same needs. Your needs are unique, and so just because one family made one set of choices, chose one state, chose one investment option or several investment options, that doesn't mean necessarily that's right for you. You want to consider talking with people you trust. You want to create a circle of support comprised of family and friends who know about the person who will be the beneficiary of the ABLE account. Maybe, again, as I mentioned, people who are part of the healthcare support system to you. It may be part of a provider agency that you're very much been involved with recently or for years. So really think about who can help you discover and identify what will be our aspirations around contributions that come into an ABLE account, investments that you need to grow long-term, or funds that you're going to access more regularly. While not mandatory under the law, you could consider consulting a financial advisor. You may already have a financial advisor who has documented experience with creating or managing funds related to individuals with special needs. You may already be a part of a pooled trust or a special needs trust. ABLE isn't instead of either. ABLE, an ABLE account, gives you some other options, and you'll want to work with your advisors, your trusted circle, to think about how your needs are unique. Comparing ABLE programs. You may want to consider a variety of questions. First, in looking at different state programs, how does the enrollment process work? Is it done exclusively online? I will tell you that many of the ABLE programs, in addition to an online choice, will have you have the ability to print out a form, and with that form, share it with others to work together on opening an account. You may also want to consider what proof will the ABLE program require for you to document in order to open an account or show that your disbursements are qualified expenses. You're going to want to compare the fees which required from one state to another in opening an account. How much is that fee? Is there a minimum amount of money you must contribute to open that account? Is there a minimum amount for you to make future contributions, or are there no minimums? Or how does the minimums in one state compare to another? How does the fee structure in one state compare to another? You may also find with state ABLE programs to be open soon that there is a difference for in-state versus out-of-state residents, because the state legislature may have in their law provided money that really is to benefit just in-state residents. There could be an entirely separate cost structure or fee structure for out-of-state residents who are encouraged to join but may pay a higher set of fees. I just mentioned, but again, different minimum contributions to your account may be required. If so, what is that amount? You can begin to compare. You may want to also consider some other questions. Are there annual maintenance fees? Or was there just that one-time setup fee at the beginning when you open an account? Are there fees that are front-end loaded, or they reduce if you leave your funds invested for several years? So you will find with each state program not just one choice of where am I putting my money that's going in from my contributions into my ABLE account. You're going to be provided multiple choices. Some of those choices will offer growth as the key factor. Some of the choices will be lower fees. Some of the choices, as with this question in terms of fees front-end loaded, is there's a certain fee structure, but if you keep your money in that investment account longer, 1 year or 3 years, we'll have to see the specific language, then the fees for when you begin to take money out are lessened, are reduced. These are all potential considerations for you. Are there restrictions or fees associated with how often you can withdraw funds from your account? Or perhaps there are not. Can you access the funds as soon as the ABLE account is open? And if you want to close the account, are there any fees and or costs? And are those costs different is if you should determine that you want to close the account after a year or after some set time period. Some of the accounts are going to have, as part of the account, a debit card or purchasing card available with the program. These cards will help you manage and keep track of disbursements. You may want to also look at, is this feature free? Are there added costs to ask for that prepaid card or debit card? Are there added costs or fees every time you use the card? Or maybe there are no fees. These may be other factors in determining, am I going to take and place my contributions in this state's ABLE program or yet another state. You may want to consider an additional set of questions about the investment options. You will want to look carefully at each state as to what the investment options are. Some will be billed as growth-focused, more risk, because no one in a growth portfolio is going to guarantee you a rate of return. Others will guarantee you a rate of return, but they will be similar to if you have funds in a bank or money market fund. They will be low return, but they will guarantee you no potential loss from the principal of the money you put in. Are the options likely to meet your needs for limiting risk with the growth of your contributed dollars to the ABLE account? Does the program offer any unique or value-added program elements, maybe to help you save, contribute to your account, grow the account, and manage your invested dollars? If they're offering an investment fund, which is not brand new, but already has a history, you will probably want to look at the history of that fund in terms of the rate of return. Recognizing, again, no prior record of past return is a guarantee of future growth and future gains. But you'll want to look and compare rate of return of different investment funds. Now, a further consideration may be possible residency advantages. If your state is going to offer a program, is there an additional benefit because your state income tax will be reduced by the contributions into your account? Is there a limit on what that state income tax deduction might be? Is it limited to $1,000 a year contribution, or does it take it all the way up to the maximum contribution of $14,000 annually? Does your state program offer any unique or value-added program elements, such as a match or a rewards program, or in some states are looking and expect to offer some type of financial literacy program for beneficiaries, or information and links to other resources which could help you in just gaining knowledge and skill in managing your resources in an ABLE account. It could help you save. It could help you with decisions about contributing to an account, growing the account, managing the invested dollars. You'll want to look at, each state will offer a document that will help explain what are the essential critical elements of their program, what are their fees structure, what are their investment options, what are their costs of entry when you open an account, are there costs when you close an account, are there costs when you remove funds from the account. These are all critical elements that, again, depending on your individual family needs, will help you make a decision. Stay informed. Most important, I think, in this really exciting and dynamic time where we move from the promise of the law, as I mentioned, signed December 2014, and now move to the period of really the promise becomes a reality. And millions of individuals with disabilities who meet eligibility criteria, millions of families with a family member who meets eligibility criteria will have the opportunity to think about, is this going to work for me? Is this going to be a good choice? And then, which state program am I going to choose? We want you to be an informed consumer. One of the things that we will offer from the ABLE National Resource Center at www.ablenrc.org is a comparison chart that will list some of these critical elements that might be factors in how and when you make your decision about opening an ABLE account and opening an ABLE account in a particular state. This chart will compare and contrast the fee structures, the investment options, minimum factors related to contributions to be made, limits on how often you can distribute funds, the array of choices in terms of investments. We will not state an opinion, which would be impossible, as to which is the right program for you. But we hope the chart and the links back to the individual state programs will be a resource for you that you will come back to. As more states open their programs, we'll continue to add to the comparative chart. So it is critical to be an informed consumer, and we hope the ABLE National Resource Center, which is managed by National Disability Institute, but has as members over 20 of some of the largest national disability organizations in the country, will be a resource to you. We urge you, if you are affiliated with a national disability organization, whether that's the ARC or Autism Speaks or National Down Syndrome Society, Easter Seal, United Cerebral Palsy Associations, there's so many organizations. Please talk with your own organization too. They may be putting together their own set of resources and information, but we're a collective and a cooperative which will make the resources of the ABLE National Resource Center available to everyone at no cost. Let me take us now to our panel. And before I go to these questions, let me tell you a little bit about our panel members. As I introduced at the beginning of this webinar, we have gathered individuals who not only are they deemed eligible by the eligibility criteria about ABLE, but they have given a lot of thought to why an ABLE account might be right for them, and some of the factors they are going to consider when ABLE programs begin to open as early as next month, the month of June. So let me thank Tom Foley, Deputy Director, Access to Assets Program at World Institute on Disability. Tom is trained as a tax lawyer and financial planner. He leads WID's business consulting and financial inclusion work. After more than 30 years of experience in the disability community, Tom authors Equity, the first asset-building book for people with disabilities. He also serves on the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund Board and has been recognized by numerous organizations, including CFED, NDI, CFFI, and many others, for his work in advocating for greater financial stability for people with disabilities. I want to also introduce you to Alex Dennis, also with WID, World Institute on Disability, a policy and research specialist. Alex also works on the Equity Financial Education Project. He was a contributing editor to the Equity ebook and a video editor of the Equity YouTube video series. He has put a special focus on understanding and educating people about ABLE and ABLE accounts. He's also working on career access, benefits reform, and employment supports initiatives. As an individual with a disability, he also is looking at ABLE accounts and can give us his perspective. He's a regular contributor to the disability-focused New Mobility magazine, and also, I think, will add a lot to this panel. Third member of the panel is Aaron Kaufman. Aaron is Senior Legislative Associate, Jewish Federations of North America. Jewish Federations of North America is the umbrella organization for 151 Jewish federations and more than 300 independent communities across North America. It's a network of federations, hospitals, aging and assisted living facilities, community living arrangements, family service agencies, vocational training programs, working with people with disabilities, and also a group of significant employers. Aaron recently joined JFNA's Washington, D.C. office as a Senior Legislative Associate. He is focusing on disability and Jewish poverty issues. He previously was with the ARC of Maryland, where he lobbied members of the Maryland General Assembly and the Maryland Congressional Delegation on issues affecting Marylanders with intellectual and developmental disabilities. He's worked with the office of Congressman Chris Van Hollen and others, and as an individual with cerebral palsy, brings a unique perspective to all of his work with the Jewish Federation. He's a graduate of University of Maryland, College Park, with a BA degree in American Studies with several honors. Our last member of the panel is Sergio Zarate, a disability champion and advocate, has a parent with a daughter with Down syndrome. He's co-founder and president of Down by the Border, an association helping children with special needs, a Texas ambassador for the National Down Syndrome Society, an ad hoc committee member to the Autism Society on legislative issues, president of the Brownsville Independent School District ad hoc committee on special education, and generally very, very engaged in his local community and at a state level in issues that impact families with a child with significant disabilities. So let me thank the panel, and let me first go to first question.
May I make a statement, Michael? I have a quick statement prepared.
Oh, Aaron, please, go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much to NDI and to you and Chris Rodriguez for your incredible leadership. As an adult with cerebral palsy, I have many expenses that my friends without disabilities don't have to consider. For example, I can't drive due to my disability, and paratransit is not reliable, so I end up spending a good bit of money hiring people to drive me places. I have many medical challenges that require me to go to medical appointments. Also, on occasion, I have to hire a personal care attendant to help me with activities of daily living. Growing up, I needed tutoring to get through school. Right now, I live with my parents. However, should I choose to move out someday, I will need to make accessibility modifications to my new place. I say this not for pity, but to try and illustrate how an ABLE account will help me. I'm excited about the fact that the ABLE will soon become a reality, and I can be a good consumer and shop around until I find a state ABLE Act plan that works best for me and my family. An ABLE Act account will provide a sense of financial security. However, this is not just about me. I make my living advocating for people with disabilities as a senior legislative associate at the Jewish Federations in North America. I'm very thankful that they have allowed me to participate in this webinar and have been such a strong proponent of the ABLE Act, because at JFNA we truly believe in empowering people with disabilities and their families. So thank you very much, Michael.
Well, thank you, Aaron. And let me turn next to Tom Foley. You know, the first question is very similar to the statement that Aaron just made, is personally, and Tom, you work with people with disabilities all across the country, what do you anticipate will be the most significant benefit of being able to have an ABLE account for either you personally or so many people that you work with across the country?
Thanks, Michael, and thanks to the ABLE National Resource Center for this call. You know, that's a great question, and while you were doing the presentation earlier, I was reminded, you know, when I bought my first house back in 1989, I was still on benefits, and you know, SSI allowed people to own a home, but there was still that really pesky $2,000 asset limit. And how you save for a down payment on a home with a $2,000 asset limit was rather complicated. For myself, and I know for lots of other people with disabilities, you know, just the ability to safely put away money towards, as you mentioned earlier, towards a goal. Maybe it's a computer, maybe it's career counseling, maybe it's to buy your first home. But a place where you can safely put that money without the worry of losing either SSI or Medicaid is a huge revolutionary advantage for folks with disabilities who are trying to improve their financial futures.
Thank you, Tom. And let me turn next to Alex, also with World Institute on Disability, and both personally and you also are working with people with disabilities all over the country. What do you think are the reasons people are going to most significantly benefit from opening an ABLE account?
Thank you for having me on, and thank you to the ABLE National Resource Center as well. I'll echo Tom and pretty well everything that he said. Looking at this slide right here, tax-free growth, saving without jeopardizing federal benefits, and opportunity to increase financial independence, I'll actually hit that third one for a moment. I personally have a special needs trust from my family and some other healthcare situations from when I was younger, and my brother is the trustee managing that for me. And every time there is any sort of medical or personal need, or might it be even paying rent that comes up, that I have to go to him, and I have to ask a family member to go into a bank account and write a check and make that happen. Being able to do that on my own and have that financial independence is going to be incredibly powerful to be able to do that. And it's not only adds convenience, but it's also personally empowering. And ABLE accounts, I think what we talk about too is that ABLE accounts are limited to disability-related needs, and saving up that money for disability-related needs also is very valuable. I think that there's something to be noted of being able to have $2,000 or $3,000 in a personal checking account and not feeling like that amount of money is limited and has to be reserved for medical and personal logistical related funds. There's something to being able to have that money in the bank and feeling like you can go to the movies and you can live a life and go out without looking at the bank and worrying if these extra $100 might be an emergency savings and spending fund. And for me to be able to go out and live life with my own money, I think is going to add just more enjoyment. And that's going to be there for a lot of people with disabilities as well.
Thank you, Alex. We're having some technical difficulties with Sergio, so I've asked Chris Rodriguez to perhaps answer this question as well. You have a brother who and your family is looking at an ABLE account for your brother with disabilities. What do you think is the most significant benefit as you and your family look at moving ahead with an ABLE account for your brother?
Thanks, Michael. Absolutely. So I think it's worth noting that my brother lives down in Texas, and my parents are his legal guardians. So as much as I would like to help out in terms of managing his account, under the rules and regs, there's really only 3 types of individuals that are allowed to have signature authority over the account, and that's a parent, the guardian, or a person with a power of attorney. So my parents, being my brother's guardian, will have signature authority, despite the fact that my brother, because he is the beneficiary and a person with disability, is still the owner of the account. But I will certainly be helping out my folks answering any types of questions I can. With respect to the question, I think it's a great one. For my brother personally, and I suspect other folks are similar out there, he is currently a recipient, a beneficiary of SSI, so he gets a cash benefit to assist him on a monthly basis. Now, sometimes his needs obviously vary over a course of a year. As an example, he does equestrian horseback riding that helps him with his mobility issues, and that takes place in the summer, and that's something that is not covered by Medicaid, and that is actually fairly expensive. Now, he could save up, or ideally he would be able to save up that cash benefit to pay for something like that, but he's not allowed to have more than $2,000 in his account. So my parents are constantly looking for ways to spend that down at the beginning of the year, despite the fact that we know he's going to have that expense in the summertime. So this is going to offer him the opportunity to put some of that SSI check, some of that money away into his ABLE account and leave it there and let it grow in hopes of using it for his various needs, such as the equestrian horseback riding that happens later in the year, without fear of losing his absolutely vital supports and services, not only that cash benefit, which is relatively modest, but more importantly, the Medicaid supports and services that help him live independently. So I think the fact, at least for my brother and my family, is the fact that he's for the first time ever going to be actually able to open up or to save for his future. So many times, I can't tell you how many times my parents have had to contact family members, my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, to say, you know, who acknowledge and love my brother and love to send him Christmas cards and birthday cards, having to call them and say, hey, listen, do not, despite the fact that you send Christopher, you know, a Christmas card with a check-in or whatever when I was younger, do not do that for TJ, because as good-willed as those things are, that could actually prohibit him from being eligible for supports. Now we can take that money and put it somewhere to save for his short and his long-term goals. So I think that's going to be incredibly significant for him.
Thank you, Chris. There are several questions that have come in the chat box. I'm going to go to those, and then we'll come back to the question 2 on the screen. A question has come in: how will I know when my state has opened their program? One of the simple ways to find that out is just keep visiting the ABLE National Resource Center website. It has an interactive map. You can touch on the screen your state, and it will give you the updated picture as to what's the status on your state opening an ABLE program. As states open ABLE programs, we are going to have an easy feature that will let people know these are the following 4 states, or the states that are open, and now there are 7 states, and it will give you direct links to those states. So that is one way to just stay informed. I know that another question that came in was, in the case of divorced parents, who decides which parent can open the ABLE account for a disabled child? Is it first come, first serve? Well, I would say the answer to that is not so much first come, first serve. However, let's look at the practical, and then maybe we'll look at a legal answer. The practical answer is, of course, even with divorced parents, would be to have a level of communication where you talk with each other and hopefully look to open an ABLE account. You can only have one account, but you're looking at ways you're going to get the optimum amount of money up to that $14,000 a year ceiling. Now, on the legal side, because you can only have one account, in talking with different states about the opening of accounts, some states have simply said whoever opens an account first, that becomes the account of record. But we will see as states open their programs how they may be dealing with this issue, because there certainly may be, you know, a grandparent who, as a surprise, opens an ABLE account for a grandchild, and unknown to the parents who were getting ready to open an account. So this is an issue, and we'll know and learn more about it as states open programs and what rules or what notices they may put into effect. I'll come back to more questions from the chat room, but I know we heard some of the answers from the panel on question 2, which is, what are some examples of disability-related expenses that you might want to use your ABLE account for? I did want to see one thing in a chat room where people were wondering if there are certain healthcare products or healthcare needs that are not covered by insurance or not covered by a federal public benefit like Medicaid. Could an ABLE account cover those expenses? Absolutely. So that's an answer to that question directly. But let me go back to the panel, and maybe I'll start with Tom this time. Could you give one example of what you think might be a disability-related expense that either you might consider or in talking with others you might consider for an ABLE account?
Sure. You know, so personally, at this point in life, I think I will be using my ABLE account as sort of a supplementary retirement savings, which will guide a bunch of the decisions. And one of the things we know here, just nationally, is that for people approaching retirement and who are retired, the two most expensive things in their life are housing and medical coverage. So one of the great things about ABLE is how broadly disability-related expenses are drawn. So in my own case, you know, I keep hearing how medical expenses are increasing and increasing and increasing. So that will certainly be one thing I would anticipate using ABLE to help pay for, possibly in addition to that, housing-related expenses.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Let me go maybe to Aaron. And you gave some examples, but you want to highlight one example you think about for an ABLE account?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, transportation is my biggest expense, and unlike a wheelchair or walker, that is not something that is covered by insurance, but I cannot drive, so to get to work every day, you know, costs me lots of money, and you multiply that by 50 weeks a year, and it takes a huge chunk out of my salary. And so like the other gentleman said, I'm hoping to use some of my ABLE Act money to pay for transportation so that I can do things like go to the movies and out to eat and things of that nature. But in addition, with my own parents aging, you know, they're in their 60s, I think I may need to save some in the event that they can no longer assist, then I need to have a personal care attendant on a more regular basis.
Great, thanks, Aaron. And Alex, how about the same question?
Hi, I was thinking about this as we did the question. So I have a physical disability and I use a wheelchair, and one of the things that I've been noticing is that Medicare, in terms of covering DME, some of the rules have become such that I either have to pay upfront and then await reimbursement, or with some of these parts, Medicare is actually covering at a different rate than the parts themselves are. So DME and personal support, just in a way that I can still move around town and maintain my independence, is huge for me. And being able to have those funds really will keep me moving around town. I've also had to invest in accessibility of my home, and having a large amount of money to be able to do that, again, helps with independence, well-being. And with all of this being said, that having the investment opportunity to then put money away, see it grow, and then feel comfortable using some of that invested money to come back will bring me some peace of mind in terms of covering some of these larger expenses as well.
Great, thank you. I'm going to throw in a few of the questions from the chat room. A question came in, can people donate into an ABLE account similar to making a contribution to a nonprofit 501c3? And would it be then tax deductible? The answer to that is no, that the contributions going in terms of its tax deductible nature at a federal level is no, it is not, and it will vary by state. Some states will have the contribution going in, give you a deduction up to a certain dollar amount, each state being specific what that dollar amount is for deduction on state income taxes. Another question was, what is a 529A program? 529A is the amendment to the tax code, but it is just the technical name for the ABLE program and ABLE accounts. So cover that one. Okay, let me go next to our third question in our set, and I'll start maybe this time with Alex. Is what do you think is the most important characteristics of an ABLE program you would take into consideration when choosing one state's program over another? And why would that be the important consideration for you?
Well, thank you. As I was going through these slides, I started putting down bullet points for this question, and they just kept on growing. So a few different things. The first one is investment options, risk return, and even some flexibility around that. That I've noticed some of the soon-to-roll out ones have options around Vanguard funds and other investment venues. And knowing that there's some flexibility there, say, between a mixed stock bond portfolio versus a kind of stable cash style amount of money is really valuable, because I do follow the stock market to a certain extent, and I try to follow the economy, and knowing that I can feel either safe or go for a longer term investment really is valuable for me as someone that I'm 28 years old right now. I'm looking for this as an opportunity to spend and have savings for medical related expenses, but also, as Tom was talking about, as a retirement account and a retirement fund as my personal income grows and I'm able to cover some of those other expenses as well. One of the other ones is, I would say, ease of access, and that's number one, to agencies and support. I do know that if something is happening, I want to be able to contact an agency, and part of that might simply be whether it's in-state or out-of-state, or whether I am reaching out a little bit more, and then ease of access to the funds, and that would be whether it's kind of a debit card, how I would use checks, and how I would access the funds so that I feel like I have flexibility and easy access to these medical needs.
Okay, thank you. Let me turn that same question over to Aaron in terms of what do you think is going to be some of the critical characteristics you might take into consideration when choosing one state ABLE program over another, and why would that be important to you?
Well, I'm going to look very carefully at the states that have the fewest amount of fees and administrative costs and things of that nature, because all of those fees and things like that take away from the purpose of the account, which is disability-related expenses. And also I'm going to look at flexibility, because as a person with a disability, I know your life can change on a dime, and a big expense can come up that you weren't expecting, and you need to, and life doesn't wait, so you can't have an account that just has all these rigid rules.
Okay. And Chris, you want to take that from the standpoint of what you and your family are looking at?
Sure, absolutely. I think my brother's, he's not in school anymore, things like that. He goes to a vocational day have program during the day, and he has quite a few wide-ranging disability-related expenses that he incurs really on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. So one of the things that I think might be important to my family is to be able to make sure that they can make frequent distributions without having to be financially penalized for doing so. So if there was a program out there that perhaps, say, and this is just hypothetical, but if there was a program that said, you know, you're allowed 10 disbursements per year, and then after you exceed those, we're going to charge you X amount per disbursement. Since my brother has so many, that would be seen, at least to me and my family, my brother, as something that we would want to try and stay away from. In addition, I like the idea of a program that has a card, again, so that he can use the funds in the account, have access to those pretty readily because he has so many frequent needs. Now, on the other hand, I know a lot of families that are interested in opening up an ABLE account for their young son or daughter, and they really plan to keep the money in the account for long periods of time until their son or daughter reaches age of majority, 18 or older. So they probably wouldn't be as concerned over whether or not perhaps a program had a debit card and the fees associated with that, or if a program chose to have additional fees for frequently made distributions. So I think that's an interesting way to look at it in terms of what you said, Michael, in that a program that might be very well suited for my brother might not be extremely well suited for another family or individual, despite the fact that they're both qualified beneficiaries to open an ABLE program.
Okay. And Tom, your thoughts on this?
You know, for me, it would be low costs both from the investment side and from the administrative side, and the opportunity to invest in a growth portfolio. The tax advantages are really a significant consideration for me. But, you know, to Chris's point, I've met with lots of folks with disabilities who, you know, not only are super excited about having a safe place to put money, but have said they really are looking forward to being able to use sort of a debit card. And I know a couple of the plans also have the ability to do almost a crowdfunding sort of thing for participants, and a lot of people are really excited about that feature as well.
Okay, thank you. Let me go now, some of the questions coming in, and this seems several questions like this. Individuals writing in that they're older than 26, does that mean they can't open an ABLE account? I want to be very clear. The answer to that is no. You can open an ABLE account being over the age of 26. What's critical here is that the age of onset of disability was by age 26. So that's a significant factor. We had a related question, is an individual indicating that they were rejected for Social Security benefits because they were found able to work, and would that prevent them from being eligible to open an ABLE account? And the answer to that is, again, no. The inability to work piece of eligibility for Social Security benefits, either SSI or SSDI, is not a part of eligibility for an ABLE account. So there is no disincentive here for a person to not work or consider to continue to not work or return to work. The ability to work is not going to in any way prohibit you from opening an ABLE account. The fact that you are working will not disqualify you from opening an ABLE account. Another question is, if you open an ABLE account in one state, can you close it and change states later if you decide that maybe another state has a better program for you and meeting your needs? And as long as at any point in time you only have one account open. And the answer to that is yes, you can close an ABLE account in one state and then open an ABLE account in another state. But cautions and for you is when you open that first ABLE account, did that state have any additional costs or fees that are thrown in if you leave that account after a certain time period, and maybe it was a short time period? You'll need to look at that feature of each state program. But you could move from one program to another. There are some questions being asked about one family has a custodial account of funds that is being held for a child. Could they move that from a custodial account into an ABLE account? Yes. But again, you may want to be talking with, if you had a financial advisor or you have a financial advisor, as what were the economic reasons or what was the strategy as to why you opened that account that way. But there may be that funds could go here. Another question was asked about that either the person was going to inherit some funds or had already inherited funds. Can money from inheritance be moved over into an ABLE account? And the answer again is yes. But remember, you can only put in up to $14,000 annually. So those are just some of the other factors to consider. I think we really covered how people see on this panel they're going to use an ABLE account. Here's a different question. What might cause you, I'll go to you first, Tom, and you already have given reasons why you would open an ABLE account, but again, you work with a lot of people with disabilities. What might cause you or think, and what you've heard about, that would make people hesitate to open an ABLE account?
Great question, Michael. You know, I think some people almost think it's too good to be true because this has been a battle we've been fighting for so long. You know, in addition to that, and I think some of the panelists have spoken to it, people are worried about how difficult it will be to set up from an administrative and paperwork standpoint. The proof of disability is another concern that I've heard. And then I suppose the ability to fund it as well. So that might be from an individual, that might be from families. But I think, you know, again, some of these accounts are really suggesting and supporting really innovative ways to not only make it very simple to open the accounts, but to make sure that friends, family members, and even community members can participate in helping to fund it.
Great, thank you. Alex, any thoughts you might add about hesitation about opening an ABLE account?
For myself, no. I'm really looking forward to it. Again, I'm sort of looking at it as a supplementary retirement planning tool. So it's certainly not something to be used instead of an IRA or a 401k, but in addition to it, the tax advantages of being able to put money away for extended periods of time, kind of like with a Roth, are a really, really powerful tool. And I'm trying to get Alex to donate to my ABLE, but he says no so far.
Tom just has to donate one of his 2 golden retrievers to me first.
Okay. Aaron, any thoughts about hesitations about opening an ABLE account?
Well, I have none, and I'm sorry I stepped on someone earlier. I thought you had called on me. But I can imagine a couple, and that is, some people are listening to this conversation today and they're saying, I'm not wealthy, so it's not worth opening up, because I, only have $100 to put aside for my child or something like that. Additionally, as you've outlined, there's some complexity with the ABLE Act account, and I imagine if you have limited English proficiency, you might be overwhelmed by what it takes to go to the bank, make an investment option, etc.
Okay. I'm going to go to some of the questions coming in the chat room again. Several questions are, I'm currently receiving SSI, or I'm currently receiving SSDI, cash payments monthly. Could those funds be used to go into an ABLE account I open? And the answer is absolutely. It does not have to be earned income. Social Security benefits are considered sometimes called unearned income. Again, it's not just you, but family and others can put money into an ABLE account. There is a restriction that it must be cash. You cannot transfer a stock into an ABLE account. So it has to be money. But certainly Social Security benefits could be used in an ABLE account. Another question was, when I open an account, what's the most money I could put in? And there is, you could, in opening an account, put in the maximum amount if you had those funds available, either you yourself or with others, which would be $14,000 annually. So that would be the maximum. I was focused on the minimums earlier simply because some states may create that a minimum to open an account might be $100 or $250. But we do know from some of the states that are going to open first, it could be as an amount as small as $50 to open an account, and there is no real low bar to a minimum. Additional contributions could be as small as $1. So they're really trying to encourage you to, as what we call crowdsource, get others to help you and put money into an ABLE account. There is a question about, are there penalties for using the funds for expenses that are not disability related? Example, a vacation. Do you know how they will document what the funds were used for and who will oversee that? Okay, we can answer those questions. The definition of disability-related expenses has over 12 broad categories. It is almost anything. As I mentioned, some of those categories related to housing, transportation, employment assistance, health care coverage that isn't being covered by private or public insurance in some way, technology needs that you might have. And there is a kind of catch-all that it could be other things that improve your health and well-being. So some of this may be about, I'm not sure whether in a pure sense using the money to go on a vacation would be the explanation. Going on, but using the money to travel that helps enhance wellness, independence, opportunity to grow individually that way, I think certainly could meet the requirement. And here's how it works, is that the IRS, it will expect you to sign a form that you're not going to be perjuring yourself, that indicates money you use was used for a qualified disability expense. They're not going to ask you to turn in a ton of receipts and a lot of material. It will only be for those individuals who might someday find themselves in a random audit by IRS where you would have to have available documentation as to, I spent $232, what did you spend it on? That those were dollars I dispersed from my ABLE account. So we will learn more over time, but the bar is very low in terms of really trying to think about things that do not meet the definition. It's important to know, unlike other federal benefits programs, if someone else used the benefit from money distributed from your ABLE account, in other words, if you bought an iPad, for example, a tablet, and other members of the family should happen to use it, that would be okay. That would be, it's not for exclusive use. Again, it would be your documentation explaining why did you buy that. That probably would give you safe harbor. Buying a van, which other people might ride in, would not be disqualified. Again, you need to explain why you needed the van, because you need access to accessible transportation. So hopefully that gives some other answers. I'm going to take this question next, and that is, if you could change one thing about the current ABLE program, what would it be? And I'll ask our panelists, and if we don't cover it, want people to be aware of, there are legislative proposals to expand the coverage under ABLE that are now before Congress. But Tom, if you could change one thing, what would you do to change the ABLE program?
Well, that was a great lead-in, Michael. As you mentioned, as the law currently stands, the disability onset has to be before age 26. So I could be 30, well, heck, I could be 50 and still open an ABLE account, but the disability had to occur before age 26. You know, the disability community is known for, nothing about us without us, and lots of people become disabled after the age 26 and would not be eligible for an ABLE account as it currently stands. I think it's really important that as a community and as people and family who have folks with disabilities, that we really make sure going forward that everybody in this country enjoys the same treatment around the ability to build a better financial future. So we really need to change the law and make sure that everybody is able to get an ABLE account moving forward.
Great. And Alex, if you could change one thing, what might you change about the ABLE program?
Oh, boy. I would, this actually gets back to question number 5, which you said what would make you hesitant about opening an ABLE account. And one of the things that I had written down is the feeling of distance and the feeling of my money being in, I know me being here in California and my money, which I am trying to save away for my own personal retirement and medical needs, is halfway or 2/3 of the way across the country. So figuring out a way to almost reframe that for people with disabilities in order to break that psychological barrier, and it's simply a framing thing. That would be one thing that I would consider changing about the account. Otherwise, I would definitely go along with what Tom said about the 26-year-old limit.
Right. Okay. Aaron, do you have one thing you would like to see change? Aaron?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. Even before a child is born today, Michael, couples are saving for their college. But let's figure out that you realize that due to your child's disability, college isn't the best option for them. But you've already opened up a 529 account. Well, as of right now, you can't transfer money over, but there's a bill pending in Congress right now that allows you to do that, transfer money from a 529 college savings account to an ABLE account. So I hope that legislation passes and that everyone on this call contacts their member of Congress to support that legislation.
Great, Aaron. There is another bill pending which would allow earned income from the individual who would be the beneficiary of account to Chris is going to take this.
Sure.
Okay.
So there's 3 bills, and I think we talked about the age adjustment, and I think we all understand how important that is. But the other big bill would allow, there's 2 other ones, one to allow rollover from a college savings account to an ABLE account, which is currently prohibited but very important and would add an extra benefit, provided that rollover is still under the $14,000 cap. But the other one is called the Able to Work Act, and it would allow individuals who are beneficiaries, so the person with a disability, if they were employed and earning income, they could put income into the account above the $14,000 cap. But it's important to note that their earned income could still potentially be counted against their eligibility or the scope of benefits provided through Social Security and or Medicaid, but would allow them, because that they're earning money, to put above the $14,000 cap, which I think is great.
Thank you. We're going to be just about out of time. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I know there were a lot more questions in the chat box. I would on the ABLE National Resource Center website. I do want to express my appreciation to the panelists today, Tom, Alex, and Aaron, for candidly sharing with probably over 1,000 people across the country your own thoughts personally about how an ABLE account will affect you. And thank you, Chris Rodriguez, as well, for sharing your thoughts about how your family is going to look at an ABLE account for your brother. This is just one of many webinars we will continue to offer from the ABLE National Resource Center. Next month, in the month of June, we expect the state of Nebraska and the state of Ohio to become the first 2 states in the country to open ABLE programs. You'll find more information on the ABLE NRC as those programs open. We know Florida, Virginia, and other states are not far behind, and we hope in the coming months to bring each of these programs onto a webinar so that you can hear directly from the program managers what is the key features of their program, what are the investment options, what are their cost and fee structures, and again, help you be a more informed decision maker. ABLE can be transformative. ABLE is not perfect or right for everyone, but I do believe, and why we are working so hard to continue to get information out, is that millions of individuals with disabilities and their families, similar to the stories you heard today and the comments you heard today, can be transformative, both short-term and long-term. Change a person's options about where they live, change their options about whether they work, and even dream about starting their own business. Give them the technology that makes their life easier. Take care of healthcare costs that simply aren't being covered today and are driving people into further debt. ABLE is a game changer. We hope you have learned a lot today, and please visit the ABLE National Resource Center website. We thank the many growing contributors to support our effort to do this education and outreach: Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Intuition, First National Bank of Omaha, behind the Nebraska program, and a growing list of others. Thank you for listening today. This will be archived on the site, and stay tuned for our coming webinars. As programs open, we'll bring them to you. Have a great afternoon. Take care.